Welcome to episode 3 of the Bain Report Podcast. I'm your host, Isaac Bain, and so glad to have you back here again for another episode of the podcast. Super excited to talk about a couple things today. It's going to be a more question and answer type episode, less of a news, more of a my thoughts on different things. To kick off the episode, I wanted to address some things that happened in the last week since episode 2 dropped. So, I'm sure many of you have watched the short form content that I've been placing and putting out. The short form content is just clips of each episode put together to just put a general product of what the podcast is like out to the world. And there were two reels or shorts or however you want to call them that I put out that have been received very poorly by the public. And I would first like to apologize in saying I'm sorry that I didn't put out my best product. I should have worked harder to put out my best product in those two shorts. But I also would like to say that those shorts do not show the entirety of the context of both clips. Now, the first short that came out last week that was received poorly was my Jalen Brunson Finals MVP short. In that short, I said that Jalen Brunson was the first player to score 40-plus points in a finals game since Michael Jordan. Now, this is incorrect, and I will gladly take the criticism for that. That was incorrect. I misread my notes. He was the first player to score 40-plus points in a closeout game of the finals on the road since Michael Jordan did it. Obviously, players have scored 40-plus in the finals before then. I didn't catch that mistake when I made it in real time, and I'm sorry about that. That was my bad. The second short that was received very poorly last week was my short covering Flair and Balogun and the U.S. men's national team. The short basically was me talking about how I had never heard of Balogun, and he performed really well in the U.S. men's national team's opening group stage game. And people attacked me in the comments and said, you're an idiot. What do you mean you never heard of Balogun? If you watched the full podcast episode, you would hear me say minutes before that, I don't watch soccer. I'm a casual. Go ahead and say it. I'm not hurt by your comments because I am a casual. I don't watch soccer. I've been tuning into a lot of World Cup games this year because the World Cup's a big thing, and I'm trying to expand my knowledge. I'm growing as much as anybody else. I started this not because I'm perfect, but because I want to grow in my sports knowledge and share what I do know. So just wanted to come out on air and say, if you would listen to the full-length episode of the podcast and gotten context for that short, you would understand that I wasn't posting that short and claiming I know everything about soccer and I've never heard of Balogun, because that's not true. I don't watch soccer. It was the first time I'd heard of Balogun. I only heard of two players before the World Cup. It was Adams and Pulisic. Those are the only two on the U.S. men's national team that I had heard of coming into the game. So yes, I am a casual, and so what? Who cares? It's not a big deal. I don't really care about it. Just wanted to address that and say, yeah, you're right, I'm a casual, but don't come at me if you don't know the full context of the clip. So yeah, my apologies, but also watch the full-length episode and maybe you'll understand more of the context behind the shorts. The shorts are just supposed to be quick recaps of the general sections of each episode. Well, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get right back into where the episode's supposed to be and start off with Brendan Sorsby's news. So just the other day we heard that Brendan Sorsby is declaring for the supplemental draft after he was awarded eligibility by the municipal court in Texas, and the NCAA obviously was not happy about that. I believe the Big 12, if I remember correctly, issued a lawsuit against Texas Tech and their athletic program shortly afterwards that could have seen Texas Tech forfeit money and could have seen them miss games and possibly get kicked out of the conference because of all this gambling fiasco with Sorsby and everything. And Sorsby in the heat of all this, declares for the supplemental draft, meaning he is not going to be staying in college. He will be moving on to the NFL and will not be playing in the 2026-2027 college football season. Now, it's up in the air trying to figure out if he's doing this because of all the heat that's coming on him for getting the extra year of eligibility, or if he had already planned to do this and was just waiting on what his agent or what teams were looking for in the supplemental draft. I personally think that this is him trying to dodge all the heat for everything that he did, and I think that Texas Tech honestly pushed him out a little bit. I think that Texas Tech saw all the backlash that they were getting and said, getting this guy for 1 year isn't worth all the backlash and the money and everything that we're going to have to do after he leaves to make up for it. And I honestly agree with him. I think this is the right decision. I think they somewhat forced Sorsby out of the program, and I don't think he was necessarily complaining about it. I think Sorsby also understood that getting this eligibility, despite what the NCAA said and despite everything that he did that was wrong, getting the eligibility, people were going to be coming for him, not just fans, but also organizations like the NCAA and the Big 12. He had a lot of stuff that was going to be negative for him if he stayed in college football, and he still will experience negative things in the supplemental draft and the NFL, but it's a much better route for both him and Texas Tech and all of college football for him to just declare for the supplemental draft. The reason I think that he declared for the supplemental draft on his own term because he wanted to dodge the heat is also because why would you ask and go through all the trouble of going to the court to get a year of eligibility just to leave for the draft a week later? He obviously was like, oh, let me get an extra year of eligibility. And then when he saw everything that was going wrong, he said, I don't want to be a part of all this, and dipped. So Sorsby will enter the supplemental draft. For those of you who do not know how the supplemental draft works, it's basically a blind auction, basically. Every team in the league will be asked about every player in the supplemental draft, and they have the ability, without any other team knowing how much they're putting on the table, to say what round draft pick in the upcoming year's draft they would give up for that player. So, say there's two teams that really want Sorsby. We'll say, for this instance, it's the Browns and the Jets. That's the two teams we'll say are after Sorsby right now. The Browns say, we'll give you we'll give up a third round pick for Sorsby. And the Jets say, we'll give up a fourth round pick for Sorsby. So neither team knows what they're giving up. They're just blindly doing it. And the team with the highest draft pick that they're willing to give up for the player gets the player, and they give up that draft pick. So in this case, the Browns would get him with a third round pick because they were the highest bidder, per se, in the blind auction. So the questions are circling, what is Sorsby worth and which teams are after him? So an early favorite to grab Sorsby right now, in what I'm hearing in the media and what I'm hearing in the news from guys like Schefter and all the other big news stories, are the Browns. And I understand that the Browns are kind of looking for a quarterback right now, but they've drafted 4 quarterbacks in the last 2 years. This would be 5 in 2 years if you count Brennan Sorsby in the supplemental draft. And it just, I don't know, I think you have 4 young quarterbacks in your roster. You don't need to add another one. Plus you have Deshaun Watson in your quarterback room already. I don't think it makes much sense. I like the Jets more than I like the Browns going for him, because the Jets, although I love Cade Klubnik, being a Clemson guy, I love Cade Klubnik. He's great, and I think he's going to be, I'm hoping that he can find a way to be the backup there in New York. I don't think he's a future guy. I think Sorsby's probably got a higher ceiling than Cade does and would be more NFL ready. And right now, the Jets need a good backup for Geno Smith in case he goes down or he just doesn't perform well. And Sorsby could be that guy. So I personally would crystal ball him going to the Jets, but a lot of people do think that the Browns are going to go after him. So we'll see how that all shakes up. The next thing I wanted to talk about was the Carolina Hurricanes, who won the Stanley Cup Final just the other night. They win with a score of 3-0 in Game 6 to take the series 4-2. It's the Carolina Hurricanes' first Stanley Cup Final win since 2006, so a 20-year drought is snapped for the Hurricanes. Jordan Staal won the Conn Smythe Trophy as the MVP of the Stanley Cup playoffs. He's the oldest to ever win the trophy at 37 years old, and he had 6 goals in the 6 games of the series. So an impressive series for Staal and a great win for the Hurricanes. Hockey's another sport like soccer that I don't watch. I'm just going off of the basic stuff. So don't come at me in the comments saying, oh, you're a casual, you don't know what you're talking about with hockey. You're right. I am a casual. I don't know what I'm talking about for hockey. Just trying to relay the big news and everything else, which pretty much wraps up the news portion of today's episode. The rest of the episode, I want to spend answering your guys' questions and hot takes. So I put out a poll on both YouTube and Instagram asking you all for questions and hot takes that you guys wanted me to answer. The first question that I pulled from the Instagram was, where do you have Curry in your top 10 all time? This question is from Logan Garrett. The top 10 debate in the NBA is a tough one. Any debate, top 10 players in any sport is a tough one. But the NBA is super, super tough because there's 5 different positions, all of which have different roles and different abilities. So it's hard to rank between the positions, ranking a point guard and a center. How does that work? But also you have to think about the different eras of the game. Obviously the 60s and 70s was not as talent-filled all around the league and not as physical as the 2010s. There's just such a big gap in difference in era and also in positions. So it's really hard to rank players. So I spent a good amount of time putting together my top 10 all time in the NBA. And I want to go through that, and I'll get to Curry where I have him once I get to him. But just going to kind of run through this really fast. Number 10, I have Bill Russell. This is not Celtics bias coming in. I am a Celtics fan. But Bill Russell and all that he accomplished in Boston, so many championships, so many MVPs. He was a really good player. He's a winning player. But I can't in good faith put him over any of these other guys because the era that he played in was not as talented. Number 9, I have Mr. Fundamentals, Tim Duncan. Duncan, I think, is a great example of just a winner. He never was the best player of his era, but he always was one of the best, and he always won, which was really important to me in my focus on, where am I going to rank these guys on the list. So I got Tim Duncan at 9. I've got Kobe at 8. You can say what you will about, Kobe's efficiency, his ability to win without Shaq, all this stuff. There's a lot of debate around Kobe if he even is in the top 10. There's a lot of people, I looked up other lists for this while I was making it, who don't have Kobe in their top 10 at all. And I think that's a little bit of a travesty because I think Kobe is such a incredible player. He showed that he can, honestly, he probably had a top 3 peak of all time. There's debate where you could say he's a top 3 player of all time. When he was on, he was one of the best you will ever see. And so I'll take Kobe at 8. I got Shaq at 7, the most dominant player in all of basketball history, but didn't have the same career as some of these other guys ahead of him. Got Bird at 6. Again, not Celtics bias. Bird is one of the greatest shooters of all time. He's a certified winner, won multiple championships with the Celtics, and many MVPs as well. I've got Magic Johnson at 5, which is where you get into the debate of Curry versus Magic, who's the greatest point guard of all time. I think, obviously you can tell, but I think Curry is better than Magic all time. I don't have the stats in front of me to back anything up. I didn't go too deep into stats off of this. This is more of a vibes list. I didn't spend too much time on it. This is just looking at other lists and going off the top of my head where I have them. If you want me to go off of more of a stats list next time and spend more time on it, I can. Just leave that in the comments below. I think Magic is a great player. He's a winner. Obviously, won multiple championships. Great scorer. One of the best passers we've ever seen in history. Greatest passing point guard we've ever seen, I would say. Freak of nature, obviously. One of the biggest point guards we've ever seen. You don't see point guards that big anymore. But Magic Johnson, I have at 5, and that's where I find Curry at number 4. And now, this is considered really high for most people. Most lists have Curry towards the bottom, around 10, 9, or 8. Some people don't have Curry in their top 10 at all. For me, putting Curry at 4 was just looking at his legacy and the way that he changed the game. Curry is the greatest shooter in NBA history, and I think he will be the greatest shooter of all time, for years to come. I don't think there will ever be another shooter that is as lethal and as incredible as Steph Curry was, and as he is, God. He is so talented. 4 championships, finals MVP back in 2022, unanimous MVP. Like, this guy's done it all. He's one of the greatest shooters of all time. He's the greatest shooter of all time, excuse me. Yeah, I've got Curry at 4, and that leads to the top 3 debate. I've got Kareem at 3, obviously great career, but he's a different era. He wasn't the same era as these guys, and I can't, in good faith, put him above either LeBron or Jordan. And at number 2, I've got LeBron. I know that there's a lot of debate between LeBron and Jordan at 1 and 2. At the end of the day, I don't know. Honestly, I could flip these two guys back and forth. I understand the debate for Jordan, 6-0 in the finals, undefeated in the games that mattered most. But then also LeBron. LeBron's made it to the finals way more than Jordan has, which is got to count for something. Making it there has got to count for something, especially with the teams he was playing on. Jordan was usually surrounded by a decent bit of talent, but then you look at some of those Cavs teams that LeBron brought to the finals in the 2010s, and obviously his first year that he went to the finals, he carried those teams. He was the only player on those teams that even performed at all. So I understand the argument for both. LeBron, also the longevity argument for LeBron. Greatest to ever do it, and he's still doing it. One of the longest careers in NBA history, most points scored ever. So yeah, I think any given day I can switch my opinion on Jordan and LeBron, but for right now, I would say I'd have Jordan at 1 and LeBron at 2, just because of the 6-0 in the finals. It's very impressive. And Jordan's defense was much better than LeBron's. We're not going to go into the stat cheating and the steal cheating, the statistician cheating for Jordan here, but to answer Logan Garrett's question, I have Curry at 4 on my all-time list just because of his pure talent. He's the greatest shooter of all time. He's changed the game. Unanimous MVP, 4 championships, 1 finals MVP. Really should have had more if we talk about Iguodala's finals MVP back in 2015. But I think Curry deserves that 4 spot. I don't know if I could ever get in a position to put him over Kareem. It'd be close. I think if he were to somehow win another championship and another finals MVP, maybe I could think about it. Maybe. But he'd have to win a championship and a finals MVP. So we'll see if he ever gets to that position. Moving on to the next one, we've got a hot take from Scott Bain. The U.S. men's national team is winning the World Cup in 2026. Saw this one and about spit up my drink. I was caught very off guard by this. Obviously, it's a hot take, very hot take. When you look at the stats, the U.S. men's national team has never won the World Cup. The closest they ever got was they finished 3rd place in 1930's inaugural tournament. So they finished 3rd place in the first ever World Cup, and since then they have never made it in the top 3 finishing on the podium. So, and if you look at the last time this team won a knockout round game, it was when they beat Mexico in 2002. They won 2-0 in the round of 16. So yeah, history's not on this team's side, obviously. This team has struggled, and they haven't performed well as of late. Haven't made it out of the round of 16 since 2002. But coming off of that incredible Game 1 in group stage, this team looks great. They look like they can compete. I wouldn't say that they can win the whole thing. I don't think that we have... I don't think we have the talent to win it. After watching the last couple of days' games, watching France, I know Spain had a very shaky game, the tie against Cape Verde, which I do actually want to talk about that now. Incredible game. I watched the whole thing. Cape Verde somehow in their first ever World Cup game finds a way to tie with the reigning European champions in Spain. Incredible game, incredible finish. Spain, I still think, is a favorite to win this. I think they came out with a shaky game. Obviously, Lamine Yamal only played the final 20 minutes because of injury, so we'll see if he'll come back into the starting lineups in the next 2 games for the group play. But I still do like Spain as a favorite. Obviously, France played really well. Argentina won 3-0 last night. As I'm recording this, they won last night. Lionel Messi had a hat trick It tied the all-time goals record in World Cup history. It was an incredible game to watch. I watched the whole thing. My jaw was on the floor watching Messi play. He looked so, so good. So I like Argentina, obviously, to repeat as champions. And I like Norway. I don't know if I would consider them a favorite. I think they're a dark horse because Holland is so good. But I don't think I'd consider them a favorite. But they're definitely a dark horse. I don't think the U.S. has the talent to compete with those teams. I think that Argentina and France and Spain would just completely outmatch this team. But who knows? Maybe they'll continue to ride this high. We'll see how they play in their next game against Australia, which, as I'm recording this, will be 2 days from now. It'll be Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock. Y'all should totally tune into that game. I'm going to be watching for sure. It's going to be an amazing game against Australia. The winner of that will most certainly win the group, or at least be guaranteed to move on from the group as one of the top two finishers in the group. But the two teams who won their first matches facing off, a win for the U.S. would give them 6 total points, which would be an incredible start to the group stage with just one game left against Turkey. But yeah, to answer your question, I don't think so. I don't think there's any way that this team can win the World Cup. I would love to see this team compete. If this team can find a way to make it to the quarterfinal, they can make round of 8. That would be I don't want to say successful, because obviously the goal is to win every year. Every year, no matter who you are, your goal is to win. But with this team's past and their history of failing to win, to make it to the top 8 teams would be incredible. You look ahead to where they would be in the bracket. If they win the group, they win Group D, they would end up facing off against a third-place finisher. So one of the teams that squeaks in as a third-place finish. And that seems like a favorable matchup for them in that first round, that round of 32. So we'll see. If they win the group, I think they've got a favorable chance to make it at least out of the first round, out of the round of 32. But I would say for the U.S., you're not going to win this year. I don't think they're going to win. But if you can make it to the quarterfinal or beyond, if you make it to the semis, or even if they make it to the final, that's even better. But if you can make it to the quarterfinal in the round of 8, which is a long shot, that would be incredible and a huge win for the U.S. men's national team. So that's how I'll answer your question, Scott. Next question from Luke Shackelford on Instagram. Is Jay Herbo a top 5 quarterback in the NFL right now? So Justin Herbert, I had to do a lot of research on this and did a lot of digging, because Herbert is a tale of two images for Herbert. When you watch Herbert play, he is incredible. And there is no doubt, watching him with the eye test, that he is probably a top 5 quarterback in the league. Or close to it anyways. But when you look at his stats, things change a little bit. So if you look back on Herbo's career so far, he's been in the league for 6 years. He's still young. People need to remember that he's still super young and has a lot of years ahead of him. So don't judge him too hard just yet. 2020, he won Offensive Rookie of the Year in his first season, and then he's made 2 Pro Bowls in his career, 2021 and then last year in 2025. Pro Bowls is a hard one to count because the Pro Bowls is a popularity contest at this point, and people who should make the Pro Bowls don't, and people who shouldn't do. So it's hard to really say if it's a worthy Pro Bowl or if there were years that he should have made the Pro Bowl and he didn't. It's really hard to tell. Looking at just from this past season in 2025, Justin Herbert's completion percentage was 66.4, which ranked 14th out of eligible starting quarterbacks. He had a 94.1 passer rating, which is 15th out of all eligible quarterbacks, and he had a 60.6 QBR, which was 14th out of all eligible starting quarterbacks. So kind of statistically from last season, he was middle of the pack in those areas. But we come down to a different statistic. Justin Herbert had 3 fourth-quarter comebacks, tied for 4th in the NFL, and 3 game-winning drives, which is tied for 5th in the NFL last year, which is good. I mean, obviously, you want your quarterback to be clutch, and if he's top 5 in those categories, then he should be a top 5 quarterback, you would assume. But then you go to the playoff stuff. In his 3 career playoff games in 2023, 2025, and 2026, his touchdown to interception to fumbles lost ratio is 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and 1 fumble lost with an 0-3 record. He is 0-3 in the playoffs, and when you watch those 3 playoff games, he looks just awful. And that's been his biggest thing so far. Statistically, when you look at Herbert, he's a very good quarterback. When you watch him in the regular season, the eye test tells you he's one of the best quarterbacks. But you get to the playoffs, and statistically and eye test wise, he just falls flat. 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and a fumbles lost in just 3 playoff games is awful. Not to mention, one of those playoff games, if you remember, in 2023 was when they gave up the largest playoff comeback in history to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I believe it was a 29-point lead that they blew, similar to the San Antonio Spurs and the New York Knicks, which I talked about a couple episodes back. You should go and watch those. But yeah, part of one of the biggest playoff choke jobs, which isn't all his fault, I know, but he hasn't performed well in the playoffs, and that's something that you have to think about when you're talking about Herbert. Now, in Herbert's defense, he has not been surrounded with the greatest casts in the past. Last year, he was sacked 54 times, which was 3rd most in the NFL. That sucks. 54 sacks is not fun whatsoever. And I know that when we look at Herbert's supporting cast over the years, it hasn't been great. However, he hasn't been without a somewhat decent team in all of his years. You look at his weapons over the last couple years, and he's had weapons. Obviously, Keenan Allen the last couple years has been washed, but his first couple years in the league, Keenan Allen was great. You talk about Mike Williams, who retired last year. Mike Williams was a great receiver for him. He now has Ladd McConkey, who has been great. Offensively at the running back position, Omarion Hampton last year was great. He's been surrounded with talent every year that he's been in the league. And then on the defensive side, he's had talent there as well. Has he ever had a team that is a top 5 roster or a top 10 roster? I don't think so. And that does affect your play as a quarterback, but it doesn't affect it this much. And that will be kind of my overall thing is his circumstances can't dictate or change that much about his play. And so to answer your question, Luke, no, I don't think Jay Herbo is a top 5 quarterback. If I were to rank him, I would put him in the 7 to 9 range because he is such a talented player. But with the lack of playoff success, it's hard to put him anywhere in the top 5. If you want to see a quarterback rankings from me, I'd be happy to do that. Just leave that in the comments below and let me know if you'd like to see that. Moving on to the next question, which is also from Luke Shackelford on Instagram. Should Boston flip Jarren Duran? I've been asked this question many times, and as a Red Sox fan, it pains me to talk about it and to answer this question. So we're going to dive into the stats first, and then I'll give you my opinion, both with the manager hat on and with the fan hat on, how I feel about this. So Jarren's stats this year, he's batting .214 with a 270 on-base percentage and a .398 slugging. That is atrocious. He has a .668 OPS, not good, and 87 OPS plus, which is below the league average. The league average rating is supposed to be 100 in this, so he's below the league average in OPS. He has 57 hits, 12 homers, 9 doubles, and 2 triples with 11 stolen bases. He has a 1.1 WAR and a 29.4% strikeout percentage. He's not played well. This has been probably... I don't have the baseball reference stats up that I was looking at earlier. But if I were to look it up, I'm pretty sure this is his worst year as like a full-time starter for the Red Sox in his career. His first 2 years don't count because he was up for only half the year or down for half the year. But since he was becoming like a full-time everyday starter for the Red Sox, this is the worst year he's had so far. Now, it's still early. We're not even at the halfway point in the season. But we're getting close to it. And you would hope that Jarren would be better this year. I believe, I'll pull it up right now actually. I believe, let's see, what's Jarren's age? Yeah, so Jarren turns He turns 30 this year. Turns 30 in, what day is that? September. So at the beginning of September, he turns 30. That's a little concerning that he's having this big of a dip, and it's definitely scary as a Red Sox fan. But my point with bringing up his stats this year is, who would take him? Who on earth would take him? Who wants to trade for a guy like that? Like, Jaron is playing awful. Why would anybody want to trade for him is beyond me. I don't know why anybody would want to trade for him right now. You're not getting anything good. You're getting a 30-year-old who is just not playing well, and he's an above average defender in my opinion. But he's not hitting the ball well at all. He's above average defender, and I don't see how any contender that would want to trade for him in the first place. So I don't see how we could flip Jaron even if we wanted to. Now, going back to last month, Jaron's statistics in May, he batted .261 with a .331 on base and an .879 OPS. Much, much better. He had 30 hits, 9 home runs, and 22 RBIs in the month, and a 160 OPS plus, which is insane. He had an incredible month of May. If the Red Sox wanted to flip him, that was the best time, because now he's started to hit another slump. He hasn't been playing well at the start of June so far. And so I think they kind of missed their window here. If you're Craig Breslow and the Boston Red Sox to sell Duran, you're just a little too late. You should have jumped the gun if you wanted to in May when he was playing well. But now his bat's cooled off, and he looks like he did before May, and it seems like it's going to be impossible to sell him off for anything at all, really. You look at his contract, he's on arbitrations through 2028 season. He becomes an unrestricted free agent in 2029. His current contract is $7.5 million on a 1-year deal, and he takes up 3% of the payroll. So my overall take on this is, if they wanted to trade him, they should have done it in May. He was batting much better, he looked a lot better, and it would have been the perfect time to do it. But since they waited too long, it's honestly too late at this point. And I know that the idea is you have 4 outfielders right now if you're Boston. You have Duran, you have Anthony, you have Abreu, and you have Rafaela. Those 4 are all great. 3 of them are under the age of 25. Under the age of 26. Saydon is 26, Abreu is 24, and Roman is 22, I think. Or turning 22 this year. Those 3 guys are supposed to be your young core of outfielders going forward. I know Saydon's on like an 8-year extension. Roman's got his 10-year extension. And I think Willier hasn't signed an extension yet, but they've got him in arbitrations through 2030, 2031. They've got him for a while. So those 3 guys you have locked up for a while. They're young, and they're playing really well. They're all playing better than Jaron is right now. But you have a DH spot for a reason. And I think, especially when you're addressing Roman Anthony's defense, which has been awful in the time that he's played in the 2026 season, and when he played defense last year for the little bit of time that he was in the majors, his defense is awful. His arm is terrible. His fielding isn't great. Jaron is a much better defender than Roman Anthony is. So if you want, you can put Roman at the DH spot, especially now that he's coming off of injury. He'll be much safer just batting, and probably more comfortable just batting coming off that injury than he would be playing both the field and batting this early on coming off the injury. So you stick Jaron out in left, you keep Saydon in center and Willier in right, and you have Roman Anthony DH. I think that works just fine. You still got 2 more years of arbitrations with Jaron where he's not going to need much money, he's not going to ask for much money. He wants to stay in Boston. You know he does. He's a Boston guy. He loves the place. He loves the city. And he's not going to ask for a ton of money, so you can get him for cheap. And you can stick him out in left field, get above average defense, and most of the time, a average or just above average hitter, which is all you really need. Like, for people saying, oh, he's not even like hitting like he did in 2024. I get that 2024 Jaron was incredible. He led the league in doubles and triples and was one of the best hitters in the league. I think he finished top 10 in MVP voting that year. But you're not going to get that version of him all the time. He's going to have a little bit of a drop-off from that year because that was like an incredible anomaly season for him and for really any player to have that great of a season. He wasn't going to hit that way the whole time. We all knew that. But you're still getting a very effective player and a great player that I believe you can still use for the next 2 years and will help you in your search for a title. And obviously, I know this year it's not going to happen. We look awful. The Red Sox are terrible. There's no way we're making a World Series run. I don't even think we're going to make the playoffs, especially after the way this last week has gone. We have not played well. But for the next 2 years to come, you can kind of start to prepare for that run and have Jaron as one of those veteran guys that can lead your clubhouse. So, from a logistics and a statistics standpoint, Boston has 4 outfielders right now, and Jaron is the worst one and the oldest one. So yes, I believe that statistically and logistically, it makes sense to get rid of him, to trade him away. I don't know what you'd possibly get for him, but if you could find a way to trade him off and get some kind of prospect package or just some other kind of veteran player, it makes sense. You know, we're missing infield pieces. We need to get something on the infield or a relief pitcher or just anything, to be fair. Boston is so screwed. But from a fan perspective, I could not see Jaron go. I would be broken if Jaron ended up leaving Boston. He's a Boston guy. He's always been, you know, he's always wanted to be part of this team, and he doesn't want to leave this team. And I love the guy personally. He's great. He's a great energy boost for the team. He's a great leader in the clubhouse. And I think he brings this team a certain spark that this team would need. And he brings that veteran presence as well. So as a fan, no, I don't want Jaron to go. But I do understand why people want to trade him. I hope that answers your question, Luke. Moving on to the next question. It's actually another hot take from Luke on Instagram. Freddie's leaving Atlanta was good for the Braves. So obviously talking about Freddie Freeman and his leave for Los Angeles back in 2022. And this one was fun. Doing the research for this one was really, really fun. I have my personal opinions on this. I believe that from the moment it happened, I said it was dumb. I think it was stupid. I think that the Braves should have paid him the extra money that he asked for. I understand that you have the whole agent fiasco that you have to deal with, and that kind of changed everything, but I think that they should have just paid him the extra money and kept him because he's been a Brave his entire career. He wasn't asking for anything too outlandish for a guy that was still, you know, early 30s and was still performing at a high level at first base. But they let him go, and they instead trade for Matt Olson, which Matt Olson is a great player, but you'll see what I mean in a minute here when we go over the stats. So you look at Freddie's stats from the years 2022 to 2026, so since he's left for Los Angeles, his stats in Los Angeles have been as followed. So his WAR over the last couple years, he had a 6.2 WAR in 2022, a 6.8 in 23, a 4.5 in 24, a 3.5 in 25, and he currently has a 2.0 WAR in 2026. His OPS over those times was 918, 976, 854, 869, and 842. So even though his WAR wasn't super high the last couple years because of obviously missing time, and defensively he's kind of lost a touch. Offensively, he has still been mashing the ball well above the league average. As I mentioned, his defensive WAR over the last couple years, his defensive WAR, -1 in 22, -1.6 in 23, he's got -0.6 in 24, -1.4 in 25, and he currently has a 0 defensive WAR in 2026. His defense has never been his strong suit at first base. He's always been a very good first baseman, but not super strong defensively. Obviously, no Gold Gloves in his career. But for Freddie, it's all about his bat. For him, it's been his bat his entire career. In his time with the Dodgers over the last 5 seasons, he has finished 4th in MVP voting, 3rd in MVP voting, 17th, and then 13th last season. So the last 4 years, Freddie has finished top 20 in MVP voting all those years, including top 5 his first 2 years while he was there. He's made the All-Star game every year he's been in Los Angeles. And again, going back to the Pro Bowl thing that I talked about with Justin Herbert It's hard to judge All-Star Game appearances now with the fan vote and how that all works with bias and popularity contests, stuff like that. But you still have to be good enough to even be in the running to make an All-Star Game. So you have to take that as it is. Every year he's been the All-Star Game. He missed time in 2024 and 2025 with injury and family matters, as I'm sure all of you know. But other than that, he's been there most of the time. He hasn't really missed much time other than that. He does turn 37 in September this year, which is worrying. He's starting to get towards the end of his career, obviously. And he's currently signed through the 2027 season, where he's averaging about $23 million per year over the next 2 seasons. Which moves us over to Matt Olson. Since he has joined the Braves, here are his numbers. His WAR, 3.3 in 22, 7.5 in 23, 3.9 in 24, 6.2 in 25, and he currently has a 3.0 WAR. His OPS, 802, 993, 790, 850, and 894. Again, both of these guys rake. They both absolutely crushed the baseball. There's no doubt about it that they're both incredible hitters. Defensive WAR, Matt Olson, negative 0.1, 0, 0.5, 1.0, and 0.2, which much, much better defensively than Freddie is over at first. And he has the hardware to show for it. He won his Gold Glove back in 2025. His MVP finishes over the last couple years. In 2023, he finished 4th in the MVP voting. Obviously, that was the year that he led the league in home runs. He also won the Silver Slugger that year, and in 2025, he finished 18th in MVP voting with a Gold Glove to go along with it. He was in the 2023 and 2025 All-Star Games, so not as much hardware as Freddie has had the last 4 years. And obviously, if you're talking about hardware, you have to talk about World Series championships as well. Freddie won the last 2 World Series with the Dodgers, which is not all on him because it's a team sport. You know, the Dodgers also have the greatest team in the league over the last 2 years because they spent so much freaking money on their teams. They built the super team, the Avengers out there in Los Angeles. But he still played a crucial role in the last 2 World Series, including winning the World Series MVP in 2024. So you have to add that up to something, obviously. The big thing for Olson, he's played every game every year with the Braves. He has not missed a single game since he joined the Braves. He just turned 32 years old just a couple days ago. He's currently signed through the 29 season with a team option in 2030. He's averaging about $22 million per year with the Braves, so just barely under what Freddie is being paid. So when comparing these two and trying to decide, you know, was Freddie leaving and them getting Olson a better option than keeping Freddie, I think the biggest thing you have to discuss is obviously their numbers, but also where they are in age and what their contracts say. Excuse me. Their contracts, money-wise, are basically identical. There's a $1 million difference in their per-year salary in both their contracts. One is signed through 27, the other signed through 30, with Matt Olson obviously having the longer contract. Matt Olson is 5 years younger than Freddie Freeman. So obviously he's much younger. He's got a lot of more baseball ahead of him. And statistically, they're both extremely, extremely similar. The one thing I don't like about Olson is his stats are they fluctuate a lot. His first season, he had a 3.3 WAR. Then he had a 7.5 in his second season, which is incredible. Then he dropped back down to a 3.9, then back up to a 6.2 in 2025, and now he's back down to about a 3.0 WAR in 2026. So I don't like the fluctuation. Freddie has stayed more consistent, but he's also had a consistent decline over the last 5 years. Now, does that have to do with age and missing time? Yes. He went from a 6.2 WAR to a 6.8 to then slowly declining to a 4.5, then a 3.5, and now a 2.0. I think the next 2 years, Freddie is going to continue to decrease. And when his contract expires in 2027, he'll get signed to some other team. I don't know if it'll be the Dodgers. My guess is they'll let him go because he'll already be, at that point, he'll be 39 years old, basically. Or no, He'll be 38 at that point. He'll be 38 years old, be old, and I don't know who will sign him, but I don't think the Dodgers will. And so I think as an analyst and as a manager and as a statistician, Freddie leaving Atlanta was good for the Braves because they were able to grab Olson, who has been borderline just as productive as Freddie has been. I would say not as productive as Freddie, but like just behind him. And he's 5 years younger. They have him for longer, and they paid about the exact same they're going to pay for Freddie. But speaking as a fan, no, I don't think this was a good thing. Because if you're a Braves fan, you say, like, Braves country loves Freddie. Freddie will always be a Brave. Like, he will he is incredible. He will always be a Brave. The Braves fans will always love him. Bringing him that World Series in 2021. Incredible season for the Braves. Freddie was always meant to be a Brave, and a Brave for his entire career. I mean, he said it. He wanted to be a Brave for his entire career. And you can talk again about the agent thing and the whole contract fiasco with all that. But at the end of the day, the Braves should have offered him the extra $1 or $2 million and signed him. Because I don't think it would have made much of a difference. I think in the last couple years, Freddie and Olson's statistics have been so similar that it wouldn't have changed anything. It may have been better. Who knows? But I think as a fan, they should have re-signed him. But still, statistically, Olson has more time. He's 5 years younger. You have him for 3 more years. And you assume that he's going to keep putting up very similar numbers as he has been recently. So I would say, statistically, yes. Freddie leaving Atlanta was good for the Braves. As a fan and as a lover of baseball, no, they should have kept him. And that'll bring us to our final question of the day. Actually, a hot take, once again from Luke Shackelford on Instagram. Olson is a future Hall of Famer. This one surprised me, and I put it here at the end because I kind of get to piggyback off of what I just said about Olson and use those stats that I just used to make this case. So when looking through Olson's career stats, he currently has a .258 career batting average, a .350 on base, and a .510 slugging, which is pretty good. That's pretty good numbers if you ask me. His OPS plus is 136 for his career. His career WAR average is 3.89. His offensive WAR average is 3.01, and his defensive WAR average is 0.31. All great numbers. Sorry. Excuse me. I'm very tired today. Very tired this morning. But we're going to get through this. Currently, Matt Olson has 1,230 career hits, 308 homers, and 859 RBIs as of recording this. And his accolades, he has 3 Gold Gloves, 2018, 19, and 25. He has a Silver Slugger in 2023, 3 All-Star Game appearances in 21, 23, and 25. And he finished in the MVP voting 21st in 2019, 8th in 2021, 4th in 2023, and 18th in 2025. Looking at Olson's career stats, if he were to retire right now, no. But that's not the question. The question is, at the end of his career, will he be a Hall of Famer? He's 32. My guess would be he plays another 6 or 7 years in the MLB. Sorry for the reference. I'd say about 6 to 8 years. That's better. In the MLB. And if he continues to put up the numbers and the production he's been putting up with just a steady decline over the years for age and whatnot, I think he will make the Hall. But he has to keep up a steady production for 5 to 8 more seasons. And it would help if he could win another piece of hardware. If he can win another Gold Glove and another Silver Slugger. If he can finish top 3 in MVP voting another time or two. If he could win an MVP, that would be great. Winning an MVP at this point for Matt Olson would basically, I wouldn't say guarantee, because you never know what's going to happen. He could have a career-ending injury any day now. But if you win an MVP in the next couple seasons, assuming he continues to play for a couple seasons after that, I think it's a shoo-in for him to make the Hall. So, obviously right now, no, he's not a Hall of Famer, but I think by the end of his career, which I think it'll be another 5 to 8 seasons before he retires. I don't know if he'll retire a Brave or where he'll retire, but I think by the end of his career, if he can continue to keep a steady production and not get a huge cliff drop off as he increases in age, and if he can add another, I would say if he adds another Gold Glove and another Silver Slugger, that should be enough to get him in the Hall. If he wants to ensure it, win an MVP. Go win an MVP on top of all that, and you are for sure in the Hall of Fame. So yes, Luke Shackelford, I think that he will be a future Hall of Famer if he can continue to put up these numbers. But that's all hypothetical when it comes down to it all. That does it for all the questions I have written down and all the questions that I did research for. I had a ton of questions come in, so thank you guys so much for all your questions and hot takes. I'm sure I will use more of them in this weekend's episode if I have extra time to do that. I was so excited to answer your questions and give my opinions on your hot takes as well. This is so much fun. I think I want to start doing this every week. So if you have any questions and hot takes, please leave them in the comments down below. And I'm sure I'll put out a poll at some point next week asking for more. With all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching once again. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. I have enjoyed making these episodes so much. This was so much fun doing the research for this and putting together this episode. I hope that my answers satisfied you. If you have any opinions on these, please let me know. Obviously, going back to the hate comments that I've been getting and the casual comments that I've been getting, go at me. I don't care. Come at me with your best takes. Call me a casual all you want. That's fine. Like I said, I'm not perfect. I'm learning just like anybody else learns. I'm just making it public. I'm making my failures public, and that's okay. I'm going to learn from them. But thank you guys for pushing me to be better, I guess is the best way to look at that. You guys calling me out on these things is pushing me to be better and more precise in my research, and I hope that today's research and all the numbers that I brought up were helpful in that sense. So thank you guys again so much for watching. I hope to see you guys in this weekend's episode of the Bain Report. It'll be episode 4. So with all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Love you guys. Jesus loves you. God bless. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Goodbye.